Hey there, welcome back. RC Crawler Talk. Back today on the bench is the Class 1 Thing 1 is going to be the name, a Clodbuster build. But that's what you're looking at. But that's not what today's video is about. Today's video is, let's get this back. I got me some new stuff for it. So, these guys right here. These are obviously Vanquish, but these are the F10 portal axle kits they just released on their site. So these are the axles that came with their Phoenix kit, the latest truck that they released. They finally put a package together. It looks like everything's in there for a complete assembly. So what I'd like to do today is compare these portals to what I have under the Class 1, which are the Axial AR45 portals. All right, so I'm going to see what the big difference is, what the big deal is. I'm going to probably try to run these on this truck. So with that being said, things we're going to have to consider is link lakes. We might have to change the links around, but we'll figure that out as we get there. So let's open up the package and see what we got. All right, so I got one of each. I got a front axle assembly. See if we can't get that guy in here. F10 portal front axle set. And I picked up a rear. I'm not going fancy four-wheel steer today on this truck. It's Class 1. Four-wheel steer is not allowed. So let's open up the front package and see what comes with this kit. All right. So these are plastic housings. They're not Vanquish's usual, aluminum machined axle setup. It's got a pretty small diff, so I'm assuming it's going to be using the AR44 ring and pinions. So there's the axle. We've got a pair of plastic knuckles. And we got a little piece of the casting there. So plastic knuckles. And I've already kind of did some preliminary looking. I was hoping to be able to use the Axial SCX-10-3 brass knuckles that I have on it, but I believe these are all different. And I don't think anybody makes brass knuckles yet for these guys. So we'll have to see how that's going to work out. I believe I did see a company had some bolt-on brass for weight, but bolt-on knuckle weights are not allowed in Class 1. So there's your portal covers. Actually, I kind of dig that, how that goes over there. Lots of engineering happening there. So you got your bearing spots for your bearings there and there. I'm assuming one's going to be there. So there's the covers. You got your third member for your ring and pinion housing. 2 bearings. Now I don't know the advantage of these over, an AR45 as far as bearing sizes go. I guess we could do a little searching on old Google there, and it'll tell us if they got, bigger bearings. It'd be nice to get some big pinion bearings in comparison to other stuff. So these guys here are going to be your bearing and your locker retainer. I'm not sure what they call it, but that's what I'm calling them. There's bearing retainers. I'm just going to go into something like so. All right. In here, looks like we've got axle shafts, both sides, short and long. You got some stub shafts for the portals. Those are pretty beefy, actually. I think I did remember something about needing to use a bigger nut. So we'll have to figure that out. also have your spool or your locker that's in there. And these brass tubes. The brass tubes are going to slide right inside, and it's going to add a little bit of weight to in the low part of your truck. Let me say that again so it doesn't sound so stupid. The brass tubes will go in here to add some low weight, and it'll help beef up the tubes as well. Although these things are pretty beefy. Got some good webbing on there. One of the major problems with the AR45s is they'd break right here on the tube, and they'd break the panhard mount. So it looks like they took that into consideration when they designed this. You got a nice little gusset right there. And I like this truss all the way across the top. I bet I'm not going to have any problems with that. I haven't heard anybody online talking about issues with the housing, so hopefully that's going to be good. Oh yeah, we got all the little bits in here. We got portal gears, we got ring and pinion, bearing, lots of bearings. Those are hexes. So I'm pretty sure those are a bigger thread, the ends of these shafts. Why else would they give you hexes in there? So I may have to, I don't know, we'll see what that looks like on the wheels. Yep, and there's the wheel nuts right there. You can't see it because it's in the package, but that's a wheel nut. And that is definitely bigger. It's even got shims, cross pins. Boy, this is a pretty complete kit. The ring gear is a 30 tooth. Pinion is an 8 tooth, so that's standard ratio. Which on my truck, I don't have to worry about it. I've got the Toizuki Delrin 2.5 T case, so that gives me 44% overdrive. So, oh, looks like the portal gears have got holes punched in them. A little bit of weight reduction for that rotating mass. It's a good idea, actually. All right. So I'm not going to bore you with an assembly video. If you guys want to watch that, just Google. I'm sure someone's put one of these together already. You know, the Phoenix kits come out a little while ago, and they were all the rage. The funds weren't there for me to buy a whole kit, so got lucky enough, and they decided to come out with a axle kit. I'm not going to open up the rear housing. It's going to be basically all the same. Axle shafts are going to be different. Housing's going to be a little different. But, yeah, I don't want to get the parts all messed up. So one axle at a time. So when I get it all assembled, I'm going to do a side-by-side comparison to a AR45 portal, including weight, width, so track width, and yeah. All right. See you when it's done. All right, there we are, completely assembled. They look pretty good, don't they? Looks like a typical portal axle. All right, so I got the knuckle in there decent, not much binding. It's pretty smooth. I use marine grease on the bearings on the internals and the ring and pinion. Spins fairly smooth. They'll break in a little bit. Same with the rear. There's the rear. It's got a fancy little functional fill cap. It actually unscrews. They give you a tool. Well, this comes with the kit. Stick it on there. You can take it on and off. Don't over tighten it. It's just plastic. You don't want to strip it out. All right. So some things to note. Smooth as these guys are, what you want to do, you want to make note for sure that these are bigger. Now the hex hubs themselves are still a 12 millimeter, but the stub shafts are bigger than everything else out there. Now I haven't heard of a lot of people breaking these. Maybe they are, maybe they're not. Haven't paid attention. But Vanquish decided to make theirs much bigger. And it kind of will pose problems if you don't run the right wheels. or if you want to use other existing hex hubs. So, just how much bigger are they? So here is your standard Axial AR45 portal. Got my trusty calipers here. And I'm going to go, let's go right at the cross pin. So let me take this hub off. There we go. So that's what that looks like, right? We all know what that looks like. So my caliper says 4.9796. We'll call it 5 millimeters. Since these are, you know, high-end units we got going on here. So that's a 5 millimeter stub shaft. Takes your standard 7 millimeter nut driver for the wheel nut. This is the Vanquish. They don't have a pin. They just have a, well, they don't have a pin like the Axials did. Just a little set screw. Loosen that up. Pull that out. Got your cross pin. Now these cross pins are the same size as the portals, which is good. You have to restock up on those. See, went right in there. No problem. So let's pop that guy out. You'd think if they made that shaft that much bigger, they might have made this pin a little bit bigger. I've seen more people break these pins on other axles than stub shafts, but again, maybe something I've overlooked. So these guys, 5.95, so it's a 6 millimeter stub shaft, which is good. It beefs it up. Now we don't have to worry about it, right? The problem comes in where the width of these guys, let's just put the calipers on the hubs, the width there and there, oh, that helps, there and there, 5.67 wide. Now with my C1, I'm fighting width. I'm trying to get that thing as narrow as possible. So I have these hubs, these hex hubs, 5.8, sorry, 4.8. So almost a millimeter narrower, which when you're fighting width, that's what you need to do. The other problem comes in on your wheel hex. Now, my particular wheel hex clears the axle shaft, right? But the hex hubs that come with the Phoenix axle kit, the F10s, this little nub right there will not go through. It is too big. Too buku. Does not work. So the option was to drill that out to clear that. But then I thought, why don't I... Oh, the other issue is too, these standard hexes. I thought, well, let's use one of these, right? Put that in there, put a cross pin in it. Have to bore that hole out. All right, we can do that. So I sacrificed, let's see if I still have it up here. I sacrificed a hex hub. There it is, found it. I sacrificed a hex hub, or this hub, and I bored that out so it fit over the shaft. Right? Cool. Sounds good. Except the next problem is there is zero play in this shaft on either side. And using this pin, it will not go into the hole of the axle. It's too close here to here. All right, so the next step was to find another hub that's got the slot in the back for the cross pin. all my hex hubs that have the slots in the back, that does not have this piece, which would work, right? It would go into that guy, but they're all this width. There's nothing narrow. I have nothing narrower. Now they may make them, right? But I kind of wanted to use what I had, and I wanted to keep it narrow. I don't even think it's going to get narrow enough as it is, because the differences between the F10, the Vanquish F10 with the hex hubs on, I measured them out. Put them on like you're supposed to. And what I got was the wheel mount surface to wheel mount surface, which is the outside of the hex hub where it sits on the wheel. The Vanquish F10, the front and back, measured 7.75 inches. So 7 3/4 inches wide. Whereas the AR45 Portal, with this setup, these skinny hex hubs, my 185s to get the net width narrowed, these guys are 7.4375, so 7 7/16, just under 7.5. So these are over 1/4 inch wider than the AR45 Portals with these skinny hubs. So I might be able to get away with it. I might be able to suck it in a little bit. You know, 1/4 inch just means I need like 1/8 of an inch on either side just to keep where I am. But then I run into problems. Like I said, I'm going to run into clearance problems if I get it this close to this axle. Even with these locked up wheels, they're internals, they're made to clear portals. I think it would be really close, if not too close, if I were to find some skinny hex hubs. And then I would have to come in and take these bolts out, do some trimming, maybe even put button heads in. I've seen guys talk about putting button heads in there. I don't think we need one on the bottom. It'd just be the top here to clear the inside of the wheel. And all of this is just to run these on my C1. These are nice axles. The other issue I'm running into is weight. So I weighed them all. So the Vanquish F10 front portal, obviously there's no brass up front, just the brass tubes that come with the kit, 8.2 ounces. Okay, the rear, 7.09 ounces. That's pretty good. Now the AR45 portal rear is lighter than this guy. This one is 5.58 ounces. And this AR45 portal with the super shafty brass knuckles, that's all I did to this guy. This is 11.54 ounces. So the front is twice as heavy as the rear on the AR45s. F10 Vanquish, it's just over an ounce difference front to rear. So that'd be, you know, makes a pretty good balanced truck. I personally am going for low forward weight. So I thought, well, maybe I can put these portal hubs on here, right? No. So if you look at how they mount, how it's designed, the Axial, the C-hub, actually goes on top and on bottom of your knuckle. Whereas the Vanquish, see that? The actual knuckle is below the C and under the C. Top would work, bottom obviously not so much. The advantage of that is, see this bottom of the C on this Axial? That can be hung up on rocks and all kinds of stuff and have problems getting damaged and broken. So by this, doing a design like this, it actually, generally this is going to be underneath the inside the wheel. So it gives you actually more clearance underneath here and essentially more strength because you don't have this long span, you know, worry about breaking it. But it kind of wreaks havoc on the aftermarket with getting aftermarket brass knuckles. Brass isn't the end all be all, but I find for me, my crawling, it helps. So this is a stock Axial AR45 knuckle, and there's just no way. It just doesn't work. So FYI, SCX-10 or Capra knuckles, aftermarket knuckles, do not work on the Vanquish F10s. I'm sure there's companies out there that are going to be kicking them out. I believe there's one overseas, but they make covers, I mentioned. So I need to make a decision. Do I use this? And the other issue with me using this on the C1 is I just got the links all set up for these AR45 axles. You know, I got your link goes here, your shock goes here, obviously the same length. So I got my ride height adjusted. I got to look in the F10s, the link goes here and the shock actually goes higher. So I'd have to play with that again. I may have to put longer links. If you look at the upper link in relation to the lower link, big difference. So if you were to draw a line from the inside of this to the inside of this in relation to the upper link, the Vanquish upper link is farther to the passenger side. I may or may not have to adjust the links if I were to use these. The panhard, however, if you look at the, again, lower link spots, let's put them, see if we can't get them a better view. Yeah. So here is the eyelet on the AR45 for the panhard and the eyelet on the AR or the F10 for the panhard. I would have to increase the length of that panhard. Again, that's actually a good plan, because the longer you can get that panhard, the less radius through the articulation is required. You would get less bump steer. It should, you know, level out that 3-link, make better geometry all around. But I've already got all the links set up, the panhard set up, the steering set up, and it's pretty smooth and it works good with the Axial AR45 portals. Now, I know these housings are a weak link, but Vanquish also sells the SCX-10 version of this axle in aluminum. So I'm probably going to hold out. I'll pick up some Vanquish housings for the C1 eventually, because I know these guys are going to break. So that means I'm going to have a set of brand new F10 portals to put on something. So I think what I'm going to do, I'm going to put these on the shelf, because my C2 is going through a revamp stage here shortly. So these, by the time I get to that, maybe I'll have some aftermarket brass. If not, I'll just run these and see how it does. It'll probably be just fine. I'm definitely lighten that up quite a bit. Get rid of the cage. Put a light hard body on it. Clodbuster body, of course. And yeah. All right, so that's the main differences. Oh, the bearings. I did have... I was trying to find out if the bearings for the pinions are different sizes, and they are not. The inner pinion bearing on both is a 5 by 14 by 5, and the outer bearing, they're both 5 by 11 by 4. So the bearing sizes on the pinions are the same. Now, I did not double check the knuckles and all that jazz. I was more curious about the pinion bearings. So there's no increase in strength there. The only increased strength is obviously the housing design and these portal stub shafts. I'm honestly kind of bummed that you need the bigger nut. You need to do something with the hex hub. You can't just, you know, run what you got. Everybody else in the market runs this size. That's okay. we will get it figured out. We were going to put these to good use on another truck. So, that being said, thanks for watching, and we'll see you on the next one.